David.
Mortified.
I got recognised on Tinder as that girl that comments on Camfess.
Oh, it's so funny.
Dare you? They are not
Active missionaries anymore.
the gospel that I would spread
is of radical love.
My journey of faith has been really funny because
Lord of the Rings, you think
so
that.
I'm a bit of a sucker for process theology.
Process theology is very wrong.
The Quan's mind blowing up
Smack people.
I practice non-violence.
Cambridge loves a scrum,
But it was uncontested scrums because the French didn't want to contest us because we're too strong.
That's such a good question.
No offence if anybody has played netball.
Such a rogue question.
Really big personality.
Well, then he'll be screaming his head off and he'll be going, "Where's my king breakfast?"
If somebody says that they like me, that's always a good sign.
Me and David Quan are besties.
That's actually so deep.
Probably very anthropological as
I
well.
was like, haha, that's so funny.
My ADHD diagnosis.
And they were like, yeah, bro.
Such a good question, David.
Neurotypical.
And then I always wondered why I was so different.
Like, I didn't quite get
So
it.
one time I shouted at you, David, Quan is coffee on you.
To this day, I still feel really bad about that. I was very drunk.
And so we met that time.
Oh, I hate questions like that because it's...
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my podcast, Coffees on Me, David Quan, where I strive to give guests legacy-worthy interviews that listeners can enjoy while cooking, commuting, relaxing, or walking their pets. Final day of May, and I've just finished my first exam on the difficult yet interesting paper of Towards the Transnational Sociology of Education, Space, Power and Politics an hour ago. So dare I say, meeting up with my guest today to record this episode is a real blessing. I also feel incredibly blessed for reaching 10,000 podcast downloads many weeks ago. Please know that I don't take any of your time, feedback and support for granted, because when I started this Passion Project podcast at a low point of my time in Cambridge, I was genuinely motivated by 3 founding ideals. Number 1, purpose of giving. Number 2, learning from others. And number 3, sharing of stories. These 3 aspirations, in fact, still make up the content description for every single episode. Indeed, the opportunities to strive to give my courageous and insightful guests legacy-worthy interviews over coffee, tea, bubble tea, or water, despite my many inadequacies, have been a tremendous privilege that imbues me with gratitude. I know that I will look back to laugh at how naive I am, but if you have been enjoying the discussions on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts, thank you. And please do consider leaving a review and nominating a guest by contacting me via my linktree, David Quan. Seeing this podcast on people's Spotify Wraps or receiving positive messages about the guests give me tremendous fulfillment. I cannot thank all the guests enough for their courage and insights, and I genuinely maintain the deep conviction that this passion project, if wholly true to those founding motivations about giving, learning, and sharing, is a worthwhile pursuit. So now on to my very humorous, talented, and cool guest. Jyothi Cross is a second-year student at St. Catherine's College, or Catz, University of Cambridge, studying Social Anthropology as part of HSPS, Human, Social and Political Sciences. Yes, lots of big words. She comes from Grimsby, which is vaguely north of Cambridge, and just as pleasant as it sounds. When she's not pretending to read books for her course, she works as a mental health support worker and advocates for better mental health and disability support. Jyothi, you've already made me laugh, but welcome to my podcast, Coffees on Me, David Quan.
Hi, David.
Have you had a nice day?
I have, thank you. I've had a decent day. Yeah.
With a supo?
Yeah, I had a supo. I had to write an essay for my supo, which I didn't realise until about 11 a.m. this morning. So I mostly spent the time doing that. It was quite fun.
That's wonderful. Do excuse me if my choice of language is not correct. Obviously, I just finished my exams, so my mind is not as sharp.
The fact that you can speak is impressive, so yeah, don't
Thank
worry.
you very much, but I feel slightly offended.
Why?
Maybe not even slightly, because on the nominations form,
Yeah.
there was one thing called topics that you wish to avoid.
What did I try to avoid?
And you said to avoid the weather, but coming from Australia, I love talking about the weather.
I just thought, like, why do you like talking about the weather? Isn't it always the same in Australia? I don't know Australia, but it looks always sunny. Yeah. How can you have, like, a good conversation about that?
Because it just radiates light and goodness and
that's so true, but other things
warmth
radiate
as
light
well.
and goodness that are more like pleasant. That's such a good question. Okay, I'll come up with something later and we'll return back to that. But British weather's just so rubbish, and so I hate it.
Is it grim? Grimsby?
It's in fact grim. And the weather in Grimsby is in fact grim. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's all fun.
I have never been to Grimsby.
Most people haven't.
Before, maybe we touched on some of your hobbies, such as like rugby, social anthropology, your charitable work for mental health and disabilities. Why don't you tell me about Grimsby?
What's there to say about Grimsby? I have lived there since I was about 8 years old. It's relatively fun and nice. It's not called Grimsby because it's grim. Oh, David's door's not working. It's working now. It's called Grimsby because it was like founded by Vikings, and the Viking was called like Grim. And so it got named
grim.
after the... Yeah, it was grim, but not grim. And so yeah, Grimsby's a bit... It's... I would use a swear word, but that's very unprofessional. Grimsby's not the nicest place in the world. But like if anybody else said that, I feel like a lot of people feel the same way about where they live. If anybody said that like Grimsby wasn't a nice place, I'd be like, how dare you? We have a boat, we have a town centre, and I defend it to the death.
A town centre?
Yeah, we do.
Is there a town that doesn't have a town centre?
Probably not, but the fact that ours is still there is a miracle, so yeah.
So what are like the top 2 reasons why I should plan a trip to Grimsby this summer?
That's a really good question, David.
Or 1 if 2 is too hard.
Yeah, 2 might be too much. What's a really good... So Grimsby used to be the world's biggest fishing docks until about the 1960s, 70s, I reckon. And so we have a museum there called the Fishing Heritage Centre, where you can learn about fishing.
That's wonderful. I love fishing.
Fun. Don't we all?
So another Australia thing, water,
Oh my gosh, that's so true. There's
Lots
no
of
surfing
swimming,
in Grimsby though.
surfing.
But you could swim. So we're in the Humber Estuary, and I have swum there, but it's not that pleasant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why is it vaguely north of Cambridge?
Well, because like there's always technically we're in the Midlands, technically we're not, like, and I don't want to say that we're in the north, because then somebody from like Newcastle will beat me up, which I don't want to happen. But like we're not southern, and we're not really Midlands, because we're basically Hull, and we're also in line with Manchester. And so if you call Manchester north, it's just very political, David. Yeah.
Fair enough. And you were there since 8?
Yeah, since I was about 8 years old. We moved there.
From?
Yeah, from Wales. I lived there for about 5 years. Yeah.
How was your relationship with the sheep at Wales?
I was between the ages of 3 and 7 years old, so I don't really remember. But I don't think there's any. I don't really remember any sheep in Llanelli, so yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned on your form that your parents are missionaries.
I did, and it's true.
And it's true, of course, it's true. It's not only true, but maybe elaborate a bit more on like.
So that's why we lived in Wales. My parents were missionaries from the ages of like 1920. They continued when they had me. They worked for a company called World Horizons, where they traveled to Morocco, to India, kind of as Christian missionaries. They then moved to Grimsby when I was 8 as part of their mission. They felt like they were being kind of called to go to Grimsby to like help, because it's a relatively socially deprived area. They are not active missionaries anymore. As a family, we've kind of fallen out with the whole evangelical Christianity idea, and
why's
kind
that?
of I mean, there's a lot of reasons. For us, I think the idea that like going somewhere to preach a specific religion, especially when you're white and you're going to like places like India or Morocco, and you're going, oh, we'll help you like build these churches and stuff like that it's kind of a really icky idea. It doesn't really help anybody. It creates a lot of reliance on these kind of white foundations, which is really grim. Grimsby. And so my parents also had quite a bit of a falling out with the church because they were very like anti-Muslim, anti-LGBTQ, and we just found that like that wasn't somewhere we belonged. So my dad started working for Oasis, which is a Christian charity, and they kind of focus on social and economic deprivation and how like we as Christians can help support those living in those situations in the UK.
More of those social gospels and those examples of radical love by Jesus,
that's
rather
exactly,
than the hypocritical kind of discrimination.
It was much more about radical love, and that's the kind of stuff we go for now instead of specifically, you know, not ecumenical, what's that thing? Evangelical Christianity, yeah.
So for them to have, you know, gone on those trips, which would have been transformative for them to be called to serve and to meet all these people with very different backgrounds and experiences. How much do they share their like traveling experiences and missionary times with you at home?
I mean, loads. I am named after a friend my mother made when she went to live in India on mission. They talk about kind of their experiences in Mongolia. My dad talks about like when he lived in Ulaanbaatar a lot. My mum talks about India a lot. And also like when I was very young, they used to take me away with them. So I went to Morocco with them, and probably somewhere else in Africa, which I can't remember, but I remember my parents telling me we did it. So they shared a fair bit.
Well, did you ever consider being missionaries?
I did for a bit. When I was thinking about what I was going to do on my gap year, I thought about joining the same organisation that my parents had started at. But then I kind of thought about it a bit more, and it just felt very wrong for me to assert my presence in a place where it wouldn't really help anybody apart from myself. It would affirm my faith and affirm kind of my belief in myself, but I didn't really believe it would help anybody else.
I guess being missionaries and when you spread the gospel, you know, people have limited attention span. So, how would you kind of summarize the gospel, or if you were to go on mission, how would you go about it?
I mean, the gospel that I would spread is of radical love, that everybody deserves to be loved and everybody deserves to be respected, and kind of no matter where you are in life, you can find love and be loved.
But why? Why do they deserve to be loved?
Because you do. I don't think anybody really has a reason where, for some reason or not, they shouldn't be loved. Even if you are a terrible person, somebody is going to love you, and you can always be kind of loved. So I'm just saying loved all the time, but for me that is such a strong thing, and that is the one thing that still ties me to Christianity, that like you will be loved no matter what.
So you mentioned how your family kind of fell out a bit with the church, precisely, ironically, because they were not always very loving.
Classic.
So would you say that this is a problem facing churches either historically or in modern times?
Both, I reckon. In the modern church, I think there's a lot of issues. We stepped away from our entire church community, really. So they were too... It's not that they weren't loving, it's that they were so restrictive on their love, and you had to conform to certain ideas, and you had to conform to very specific ways of living and thinking that wasn't accepting, and that also at the same time kind of ignored all the different socio-economic issues that were going on and tried to force people into this one shell that didn't help anybody.
Do you still go to church, actually?
A bit, yeah. I try and go to, there's a branch of the student Christian movement in Cambridge, so I try to go to their sessions. We go to this Christian festival every year, which is kind of based on like radical love and activism, and for me that's like the main church event in my life. Going there every year kind of resets stuff for me.
That's wonderful. in terms of your faith, do you feel like, obviously, the way you worship and the way you preach, or lack thereof now, have evolved? Is there any other significant, like, developments in your faith over your journey?
I don't really know. For a while, I just think my journey of faith has been really funny, because obviously it was all through my childhood, so it's been totally orchestrated by my parents. So I started off like, oh, you like the Hillsongs? I started off as like one of those Hillsongs kids, and that was all the music I would listen to, and then kind of we moved into like preaching and all of that, and now for me faith is a much more ordinary thing. I try and explore like faith and Christianity in my everyday activities, in like everyday music, everyday interactions with people, rather than as a specific like segment of my life.
So does that mean like when you say do your mental health voluntary work, you feel like you are, you know, like in 1 John, like we love because he first loved us? It's almost like you showing that love because God first loved you, and are you trying to almost like glorify God and allow other people to see God through you? Is that how you feel?
In some ways, but I wouldn't want to say that, because I would never want to be pushing my faith on other people. I would never want to tell people I am acting this way because I feel like I'm acting how God loves, because I don't ever want to push that on somebody that doesn't want it. But personally, in a way, yeah, I like to think that I support the people I support in the ways that I do, with the issues that I do, because I want them to feel the love that I feel like I received from God, yeah.
And that's really cool.
We love Christianity, yeah. Yeah.
Were there like routines in your family, like Bible studies or praying before, you know, saying the grace before eating?
Oh, we still pray before dinner. Okay. Like every and like when we have meals together when I'm at home, we always like pray before tea. My parents used to do like Alpha. Do you know Alpha?
Is that the course?
Yeah. So they used to like run sessions of those, and they used to like run Bible study groups in our house. We don't really do any of that anymore. We still go to like church, Christmas and Easter, but those are the kind of, it's really minimal.
Do you have a favourite Bible verse or book?
A favourite Bible verse
or story?
So, I mean, I personally really like the Book of Revelations, because it's just like the most dramatic, like Lord of the Ringsy thing there, and I just like, I read it for fun. It's just so cool. I love reading like, and then the beast comes out of the fire. Whoa! It's so funny. But like, I love kind of any of the female stories in the Bible. I love Eve and I love Esther. Controversial take on loving Eve, but you know, yeah.
So you fell out a bit with the evangelical side. Does that also imply that you don't see those stories as literal as you perhaps used to?
Yeah, sorry, David. No, I don't really.
Apologise to me.
I know you're a big Christian Union lad, so do you take those stories as literal, or?
To be honest, no. At this point, no, but I'm happy to be
so
wrong.
So valid, yeah.
Like, I don't believe the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Right, okay, yeah, thank you. No, I, for a long time, have not taken the stories of the Bible as literal. I think, first of all, there's a major problem with the book was written over, you know, thousands of years by so many different people, and also, like, yeah, there's so many bits of the Bible that are the human words, and so I think like allegory and kind of all these stories can be really important, but I don't think they're literal, no.
But you used to think they were?
I used to. When I was like 10 years old, I was like, yeah, eat an apple and then the whole world blew up or whatever. I mean, didn't blow up, but you know what I mean. But now it's a much more kind of, I like to take them as stories of how I could learn from, rather than anything else, yeah.
I guess like Genesis, if you take it more metaphorically, it's trying to portray like this relationship or the falling of the relationship between humans and the Almighty. So I think it's the wider underlying principles that are most important, but
I totally agree.
I
definitely agree with you. Yeah, and I think also like taking the Bible as not literal helps to like figure out a load of facts and like all of the like the problem of evil and stuff like that. If you take the Bible as not totally literal and allegorical, it kind of helps you come to terms with the fact that like bad things do happen in the world. Yeah.
So you mentioned problem of evil, which is how can suffering happen given an omnipotent, omnipresent and omnibenevolent God? What's your explanation?
I am a bit of a sucker for process theology. So process theology is the idea that God kind of exists within the world and the world adapts and changes alongside God. So it's not like God hasn't written as a whole story and that's how it's going to play out. The story adapts and changes over time. And so I think that it helps to explain a lot of kind of human catastrophes.
So is God sovereign then for you?
Sorry?
Is God sovereign and all-knowing? Because if he is omnipotent...
I don't think that God is... I think God is... he's all-knowing in a sense and not all-knowing in a sense. I would say that God knows everything up until now and can make lots of decisions from now, but I don't think God can tell the future.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, sorry.
No.
Process theology is very rogue. Yeah.
Have you spoken to your parents about this? And
my dad is a mad process theologist. He loves that stuff.
Wait, so I've actually never heard of process theology. So
really?
I've actually yeah. So you're saying that God exists, but God knows everything until now, but God also doesn't know what will happen tomorrow, and therefore you have free will and anything could happen.
Yeah, so God is part of the process. God is developing the earth with us.
Okay.
David Quan's mind is blowing up right now. Yeah. So
does that mean that God doesn't have a plan, or God does have a plan?
That's such a good question, David. Thank you for asking. So from what I recall of studying process, God has a general idea of how the earth will develop. Like, you know.
General idea?
Yes, okay. So, like, the future, like, so for example, God would know that, like, I'm probably, if somebody out there is a process theologist, I'm so sorry, because I'm probably messing this up so bad. But it's this idea, like, so God would know, like, we're going to transform from the Victorian to the modern age, but God doesn't know, like, specifically that, like...
What Jyothi will be doing.
Yeah, God doesn't know the specific actions until they happen.
Okay.
Yeah. But God still loves us, so it's okay.
Wait, but... So do you have this, I guess, Trinitarian conceptualization of God as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit?
A bit.
Or is that an analogy to help?
I think it's more of an analogy. I believe that there was a prophet. I believe Jesus was a prophet. I believe Jesus was, in some form, directly linked to God and the closest link that we have had to God. And I do think God can speak through people. I haven't quite made up my mind as to whether Jesus is directly God's son, or whether... I'm not going to say the next fact, because David... No, okay. Too controversial. But I believe that, like, God and the Holy Spirit are more kind of... They're figures together, but that, you know, the Holy Spirit is more of a kind of force to help us understand kind of changes in the world. Yeah.
Would you say that, in your opinion... that, say, the death of Jesus is a historical event?
I do think the death of Jesus was a historical event, yeah, definitely.
But are you then saying the resurrection
We're unsure about it. I kind of go back and forth on this. I'm not sure. I believe that in many ways a man came and died for our sins, so we could be forgiven in the eyes of God. I don't know whether I totally believe that Jesus came back to life, though. Yeah.
So how did you come about developing this process theology perspective, and does it have a biblical foundation?
It does have a bit of a biblical foundation. I can't remember. There's like a specific... It's a whole big school of like thought. Believe from the bullshit I'm chatting, you wouldn't think it, but it is. It's quite well established. And like I heard it in my RE lessons. I'd heard my dad talk about it a lot, and it kind of made sense with all the doubts I was having with like the Bible and with Christianity. With like I was like, how could all of these things be real? How could all this pain and suffering exist and yet this God still be like in control and loving everything all at the same time? And I kind of thought, like, I do believe in Jesus. I do believe that we have been forgiven for our sins and that we can, you know, we will all live a very happy life in heaven at some point. But I do wonder, I think some of this, though, is I just maintain belief in it as a reassurance for myself. Because I think it's really nice to know that when I die, I'm going to go somewhere nice and I'm going to be with all the people I love. And that when the people I love die, they're going to go somewhere where they're safe and happy. And I think I couldn't let go of that idea just yet because that would leave me at a loss. Yeah.
Okay. And did your dad find any troubles, for example, after having adopted this pro-theology with those evangelicals who would clearly quite disagree with a lot of these perspectives?
Oh, my dad had a lot of fights with people, yeah.
Okay.
But I think he's kind of come to terms with it a bit more now. His faith at the minute kind of focuses a lot more on social justice and stuff like that. He worked with the United Reformed Church, who were very big on social justice. And so for him, rather than kind of fighting about evangelicalism and the literalism of the Bible, he kind of focuses on more the practical elements.
Yeah, I think a big moment for me was just kind of reading more into like historical social movements.
Yeah.
Like grappling with the horrors and evils and atrocities with the Crusades, colonialism, slavery,
right.
Abuse of women and all that kind of stuff. And I think Martin Luther King, in the context of slavery, or was about, you know, he was like speaking to the religious leaders who were promoting slavery, and they were saying, did you really listen to Jesus? Like, are you really listening? Or,
right, literally.
So it's like, when you actually think about the example that the Gospels, like Jesus in the Gospels share, if you really try and go deep, and it's actually about that radical, inclusive love that you talk about, you know, eating with the tax collectors, sinners, prostitutes, not turning people away, not being a hypocrite.
Right, exactly.
And I guess even if some things are a sin, but it's like, by definition, all humans in the Christian context are sinners. So it's like, until you're perfect, then how dare you then criticize other people for it.
No, absolutely.
So that's very much the love-focused theology that you're abiding by at the moment.
Definitely, yeah. Everybody deserves love. Everybody, Hannah Montana, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. And, you know, everybody deserves love even though they make mistakes.
Okay. Should we move to something a bit more lighter, or do you want me to go deeper?
Let's do it. I'll run out of bullshit to talk about with Christianity soon, so yeah.
Rugby.
Rugby?
You started at age 17. How did you start?
We've always been a big rugby household. All my answers come back to we've always been a household. My dad has always made us sit down and watch the rugby. He bought me my first All Black shirt when I was like 6 years old. And like we'd pass a rugby ball around. And then I always found that like I just didn't enjoy normal sports. Netball was like, it was so boring because you, for want of a better phrase, you couldn't like smack people. Well, like, you know, I'm not violent. I practice non-violence, in fact. But just like, I just wanted something like slightly more intense, lots of running around, all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Sounds like you want to do basketball.
Well, so yeah, but no. Basketball was like really hard, and also, I don't like indoor sports. It's too stuffy. Also, like, I just couldn't I couldn't figure out basketball. I couldn't figure out how to, like, throw it into the hoop. And also, I didn't like the idea that, like, you couldn't properly move with the ball unless you're bouncing it. So, yeah.
You just want to run with it.
Yeah, I do. So, rugby, yeah.
I mean, basketball's quite a simple sport. You just got to put the ball in the hoop more times than the opposition have.
Yeah,
and
but
stop them.
Rugby's quite a simple sport. You grab a ball, you run, you fall on the floor, you grab the ball, you run, you fall on the floor. It's quite nice.
What about the amount of injuries that...
what do I know about injuries? State of Quan.
Definitely not your ankle.
Do you know what is really funny? I always say to people, for context, everybody, I broke my ankle in Michaelmas, playing rugby. And I always tell people, I've played for like 4 or 5 years. I have never had an injury. No concussion, no breaks, no bruises. Well, okay, I've had bruises, but fine. No cuts or anything like that. And then I just played that one game and I broke my ankle. And I think it's really funny. And I don't think like injuries are that bad. I mean, like at Crofca, the Cambridge Uni Rugby Club, we've not really had that many injuries this term. We've had a few concussions and 1 or 2 knees, but that was it really. So yeah. It's pretty slow.
So you play on the uni team. What's that like? What's the culture? How often do you train? And
it's good vibes. I sadly haven't played this much this year because I've only been able to start running last week.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you for running to my room.
Oh, definitely. No, I sprinted down the road to get the bus today, and then it turned out it wasn't even the bus I could get. So that was my first sprint of rehab, and it wasn't even for a bus I could get. Yeah, so the Cambridge rugby team, I like it. It's good vibes. I've made lots of really, really close friends. It's a very supportive community. I think the fact that, you know, we're a marginalised gender within the sport. Women in rugby is a very grassroots thing at the minute, and it's gaining momentum, but it still requires a lot more support. I think the fact that we're all joined together in that means that we're very kind of community focused and all of that kind of stuff. Lots of fun socials, lots of we all go to the gym together. Well, not all, we all fit in, but like we go to the gym together in like groups and stuff like that, and it's very supportive. We train like 2 or 3 times a week. It's good vibes. If you're a woman or non-binary person, come play rugby. Yeah.
How was the rugby tour to France?
Slay. It was really fun. It was so cool. It was sad because I still couldn't play. So I had to like cheer at the sidelines and like shout at them like, yeah, I mean, we normally say stuff like, you know, Cambridge loves a scrum, but it was uncontested scrums because the French didn't want to contest us because we're too strong. Yeah, so but it was fun. It was good vibes. We got to watch the World Sevens, which was really cool. I've like never seen rugby live apart from Twickenham. Like varsity.
Oh, okay.
So I've never seen like international rugby, and it was so cool. Yeah.
You maybe see yourself there one day.
What World Sevens or Twickers? Anywhere. Probably not. It's not my massive dream. Like, it would be so cool if I could play Twickenham. But I don't think the Scottish or English rugby teams would have me. Yeah.
So you mentioned how rugby, being a team sport, is very social.
Yes.
Are there like rugby qualities or characteristics that you would say that draw people to rugby, or that rugby players overwhelmingly or disproportionately demonstrate?
That's such a good question. I think it brings a lot of really outgoing people. It really encourages, because obviously rugby has that kind of association of being like very kind of violent and like full of strong-willed people. It is a violent sport, I will admit that. And so yeah, it brings in those kind of people. It also brings in people who are quite like, I'll say passionate, and I'll expand on it, because women's rugby is still so grassroots, like I said before. It's not something people talk about a lot of the time, and so the people who join really have this kind of want to be involved, because it's not something they're used to. They really want to kind of get into it, get involved in all the culture, and kind of build this whole life around it, because at this point in time, they're helping build the community, because Crofca is big, but women's rugby is relatively small, and so they're helping, they're very passionate people. Yeah.
And what have you enjoyed the most about the gym sessions, for example?
Oh, that's such a good question. I like getting dench. No, like I love the gym sessions because I'm not, when it comes to like solo activities, I'm not a very motivated person. So like I normally wouldn't like just go to the gym by myself because I get bored. But it's really, I love the community vibes of going to the gym. We're always cheering each other on. It sounds so cringe. It's not, it's really good. We're like cheering each other on and like pushing each other to new like PBs and stuff like that. And it's just really good vibes.
What are the metrics for PBs?
What are the metrics? Like,
is it speed? Is it
no,
weights?
So we mostly do weights. We don't really focus that much on running, especially not like pre-season.
Doesn't that also matter?
So it does, but speed is less of a thing. Unless you're like wingers or fullback and some of the backs, speed is not like the most important thing. To be able to like hold the ball, to be able to tackle, to be able to kind of work as a team and pass it out into spaces is much more important than just like straight speed. I play forward, so like for me speed is not a thing that I focus on. Strength is a thing that I focus on, yeah.
What are your short-term, medium-term and long-term goals related to rugby?
Short term, play rugby again. That's up there. Medium term is I would love to play the Blues at some point in the medium term. Long term, I don't think I have any long term goals for rugby. I'm not a big on long term goals person. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of like, I'm trying to like understand the role of rugby or sport in your university life.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned like the social element, you mentioned the competitive element.
Mm-hmm.
Does it play any other roles for you?
So I mean, it's like that very typical thing where it's like sport's good for your mental health, but like it is actually like I find it really refreshing to be able to go and run around and like have people around me that I know are like loving me and supporting me in that moment, and to kind of also because rugby is so aggressive, it's quite a nice way to just like bash out all your frustration. Not like on people, on like tackle bags, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely find with basketball as well, like just,
right, yeah.
just having, or not to bash people.
Well, not bashing people, but do you bash people in basketball? It's a contact sport, right?
It is definitely a contact sport.
See?
But I just find like sport as being just one of the greatest things in terms of just having that balance and.
Right, exactly. It's a nice outlet. Yeah.
Have you played any other sports?
Have I?
Like to a pretty high competitive level?
No. I personally find sport aggravating. Football, I don't understand. I don't get it.
You don't get it?
I don't get it. End of. I just don't understand it. Netball infuriates me because it was that thing that like all the popular girls did in school, but like they get like the PE teacher would like pick them and then they'd be part of like the netball cult. No offense if anybody has played netball. I'm sure you're wonderful people, but just like in that era, it frustrated me. And I don't even know what other sports there are. I like going to the gym. I like jogging a bit. But otherwise, I just find sport like, yeah, yeah.
So you're obviously, you got a great sense of humour. You're, I guessing you're extroverted.
I try, yeah.
Have you always been quite popular then?
That's such a rogue question, David Quan. I like to think that I am a terribly popular person. I think I'm very lovable. I think I'm trying to be sarcastic here. I've always searched to make friends, and I've always really wanted to find kind of groups of people to be around. I really enjoy having lots of people around me, and so I've always been a relatively big personality. Yeah.
So you're a prolific.
That
sorry.
one, yes.
I told you after exams I can't speak. You are a prolific Camfess commenter. Is that also one of your strategies for finding new friends?
David Quan, I'd like to start this by saying that my friends gave me an ultimatum at the end of Michaelmas, and they said that if I didn't stop commenting on Camfess, they'd stop being friends with me. So I went on a 30-day Camfess commenting ban. It's so dumb. So the thing was, right, I didn't comment on it loads like last year. I commented on a bit. Like, if people are kind of saying sad stuff, I like to think that I could give them, I point them to like the right direction and stuff like that. But also, so like in Michaelmas, right, I broke my ankle. I was on bed rest for about 6 weeks. I was on a lot of morphine and a lot of codeine. So I was just sat there all day watching New Girl and like commenting on Camfess, like every Camfess I saw. Also, I'm a very compulsive person, and like once I get into a compulsive habit, I just keep going. So that was Camfess for me, but I really toned it down. I hope you appreciate that. My friends are gonna kill me. They were like, the amount of like times they've gone up to me and gone, like, Jyothi, I saw you comment on Camfess, don't do it. I got recognised on Tinder as being that girl that comments on Camfess.
What do you mean? Like, other people matching? I was like, oh, you're that girl.
Yes, David. I mean, mortifying.
Made you feel
mortified. Mortified. I had to delete my account for a few days. I was like, no, this is too much. At that point, I knew I'd gone too far. Yeah.
Any memorable Camfess posts or comments that you have seen or made?
That's such a good question. The other week I did a Camfess that said, I can't believe Matt Candia wrote the Bible, Schools and Styles of Anthropology 2018, which for all my anthropologists out there, funny, haha. But almost all of the staff from the SAN faculty who are on Facebook liked it, so that's my claim to fame.
Big achievement.
Huge achievement, thank you. Also, I can't remember what it was. I'll find it and send it to you later. But I got one of my Camfesses featured on like the headline of the tab.
Really?
Yes, huge. But I just really like, mostly I try and comment on the Camfesses where somebody's like asking for help with a certain like mental health issue, because like I can pinpoint them towards stuff, so I'd rather be helpful. Yeah.
So about 5 minutes ago you mentioned about you've always had this desire to go out and find friends.
I love friends, yeah.
Is that because you don't have enough friends, or because you just always want more? Is that just an innate desire to just meet more people?
I think it's an innate desire to be liked, David. That's what my therapist would say.
But you are not liked but loved.
I know. So true. I just like meeting new people. I think there's lots of stories in the world, and I'm very I can never be sated with stories. Like, I always want to meet new people. It's why I do anthropology, because you're always learning new things about new groups of people, and I just find it so interesting. And I love knowing I have lots of fun people on my roster to talk to. I mean, I have like an incredible group of friends. There's 7 of us, and we do everything together and we live together, and I love them to pieces. But I like getting other people's new experiences as well.
Where are the other 6 people
Where
now?
are they? Are they in the room with us? No, I think most of them are in their bedrooms revising, like losers.
So, desire to be liked, desire to feel important. What
true.
makes you feel liked or important?
When somebody tells me they like me.
So it has to be explicit. Stare you in the eye.
I'm good at reading signals, but if somebody could tell me, then it's even better. But yeah, no, I mean, if somebody says that they like me, that's always a good sign. If somebody asks to spend time with me, that's always a good sign.
Inviting you on a podcast.
Yeah, me and David Quan are besties. Somebody asked me to go to the gym with them. Yeah. Just anything, like, I don't know. I've always liked people and having people around me.
So I guess there's a difference between, like, you know, your core 7,
Yes.
the deep friendship versus people who are very amicable, very nice, but you perhaps don't know them as well.
Yeah.
how do you kind of define friendship, and has your conceptualization of friendship evolved over the years?
That's actually so deep and probably very anthropological as well. For me, I mean, friendship has really changed. It's about kind of learning how to gain people's trust and how to trust other people. For me, that's kind of been the big thing with developing friendships. I honestly really wish I could be on like a really deep, intimate friendship level with like everyone I meet, but I know that would just be so overwhelming, and I couldn't do it, and I couldn't juggle all these people.
Sounds like God.
I'm going to be very careful what I'm about to say. Well, yeah, I like to love lots of people, but I'm not powerful. I really don't know much. So, yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned two components of friendship.
Yeah.
Learning to gain other people's trust and learning to trust other people.
Yeah.
Out of these two, are you know, like, which one do you feel like you naturally are good at?
I am a very trusting person, and I like my therapist says I like to find the best in everybody, which means I'm very trusting.
High praise.
Thank you, bestie. But yeah, no, I think there's different ways of... I always worry when I'm, like, trying to get other people to trust me that I'm manipulating them. Once again, my therapist tells me that's a lie. But you just never know. I don't want to, like, manipulate people. Yeah.
I think we all need your therapist.
What can I say? Shout out to the Cranes Fund, yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff.
So... one of the things I really have appreciated about my school is how it has destigmatized well-being and mental health.
Yes.
We are perhaps, I think, the first school that have extensively rolled out positive education from positive psychology, which, if I quickly summarize, is about, you know, typically we conceptualize life as a dichotomy between having mental health issues versus not having it.
Yeah.
But actually there's also a third phase, which is you go from mental health, like problematic, to normal, to actually a state of flourishing and being awesome. And so even if you aren't struggling or are depressed, you can and still should go see a therapist to work on your well-being and different strategies.
So true.
And I think to me, growing up, that was just normalised, but leaving that environment made me appreciate that actually there's still a lot of stigma with going to see a therapist. And what I appreciate about you and your openness and honesty is just how you're so willingly able to bring up, you know, your therapist. And I was wondering...
I love it. No, I think it would be... I mean, I think it's because I come from... I mean, I've worked in mental health for 3 years. I, like, preach this to people daily. I think it'd be very silly if we pretended that we'd fixed all of our problems ourselves and that we, you know, didn't need any external help. And that just, like you said, it creates such a negative kind of stereotype and atmosphere where we're all such, like, you know, solitary individuals who can fix everything ourselves. When, like... as wonderful as that be, it's actually really good that other people have skills that they can teach us. Yeah.
So you've done at least 3 years at the, is that the iVolve group?
Oh, yeah. It's recently changed to iVolve. It used to be Heathcote's. I don't call it iVolve out of protest, but yeah.
So tell me about Heathcote's.
Heathcote's.
Heathcote's, sorry. Heathcote's. Okay, got you.
So they're an organisation. They're kind of based around the Midlands and the North. They work with people with learning difficulties, mental health problems. Our house specialises on people with challenging behaviour and sexualised behaviour as well. So yeah, and I've worked there. I've worked with 8 lads who all have a varying range of, like, issues and all need support, like, accessing the community. I have various thoughts on, like, private social care, but I do enjoy working at Humberston, so yeah.
So you worked at 3 different services, Humberton, Hull and Lincoln.
So true, David.
And you've also been a team leader on a number of occasions.
I have, not to flex, yeah.
What does that mean? Like, can you, I know there's no typical day.
I know
there's no typical day, but if you were to paint the picture for me, like, what does a typical day look like? What did it sound like? What did it feel like?
So we'll just talk about Humberston. So I have been like a support worker in our Hull and our Lincoln services as well, which were very fun. But most of the time I work in Humberston because it's 10 minutes away from home. So a normal day, you'll walk in, somebody will already be up. Probably about 2 people will be up. One of them will be in the living room watching TV. He likes to watch, if it's 8 a.m, he'll have just finished watching Fire and Sam and he'll be going to breakfast. And then the other service user will be waiting for his breakfast because he has to have it bang on the dot at 8 o'clock because he's autistic and needs the routine. But before then, he'll be screaming his head off and he'll be going, "Where's my fucking breakfast?" for about half an hour. It's very funny. So then you walk in, you'll do breakfast. Most of the lads can do all their own personal care. And then as the day goes on, you'll do meds. So as team leader and stuff like that, I do people's meds. I will take them to appointments if they've got appointments with the mental health clinic or with the hospital. We'll take them out. So normally we just go shopping or we'll go, there's a beach by us, so we'll go there. Sometimes we'll go on day trips. We went down to Skegness, which was horrific. One lad pooed himself deliberately and the other lad shouted at us for about an hour because he wanted a chippy and it was too early. So yeah, it's a lot of shouting and a lot of kind of trying to organise people's routines so they stay the same.
Through all those shouting, what did you learn about humans in general?
Oh, that's such a good question. I learned that humans just want somebody to talk to, I think.
It's that connection.
Yeah, they
to
just
be liked
really...
as well.
Right, no, it is. It's, so with all the service users, all 8 of them, they just want to... They're very happy to sit down and talk to you for 2 hours, and sometimes they'll repeat the same conversation over and over, or sometimes they'll talk about totally random things that you don't quite know what they're talking about, but at the end of the day, they just want somebody to
listen.
To listen, yeah. People just like talking and being talked to and having somebody there. Yeah. And
with that realisation and learning, did it change the way you approach your own social interactions then? Yeah,
I find it really hard not to this is really bad. I find it really hard not to treat people like service users because I get so into that mindset and I'm where I'm so receptive to everything that they need and I'm trying to tone down the way I talk so that it's simpler and they can understand it. And so I've really had to train myself out of doing that. And also I've had to train myself out of treating people like they have routines and stuff they need to stick to. As I would with my service users, I kind of push them towards certain routines or certain habits, and I try really hard not to do that with my friends, even though sometimes I do. Yeah.
So I have tremendous respect for people who volunteer their time, effort to support those in need and to serve the community, and again I really admire you for serving and loving in this practical way as well. I was just wondering, other than faith that we talked about, are there any other reasons why you decided to spend this period volunteering, which has obviously taken up significant time and significant energy and attention? Why?
I'll tell you the reason, David. Picture this, summer of 2020, lockdown. There are no jobs going apart from in care homes. And so I apply for a job and I get the job. And then I work there for 3 years. That was the main reason. And I've grown to love my job. I would never do anything else. I would never...
So it started being more of just a logistical, financial,
I
just need a job anywhere.
I needed a job. I worked in home care, so I would go around people's homes and help them with their meds, help them with their personal care. And then one day... the person that I was on double team with, so you sometimes go around in pairs if somebody needs help moving. And so the lady I was on double team with, she was like, "This place I used to work at, you'd love it. It's really challenging, really fun, lots of really interesting people." So I applied there. They were really short-staffed, and they took me. Yeah.
So I mean, in recent times, you have been disabilities officer at the Cambridge Union, the Equalities Committee. You have been the SU's women's rep, if I've not mistaken, and you've also been Catz support. No, you've been Catz JCR disabilities officer. So it seems like this is clearly your area of passion or interest or expertise.
Yeah.
Would you say that those 3 years at Heathcote's very much developed you in this area?
Oh, definitely. I think the thing was, I never really thought about the issues disabled people face, people with learning difficulties, people with physical disabilities. I'd never really thought that much of it. And then I started working there, and it was just such a joyous experience, and also so interesting to help people navigate their experiences. And then we kind of came to the realization that I was maybe not neurotypical myself, which meant that I felt even more empowered and involved, because as a high functioning neurodiverse person, I felt like I could kind of advocate for the people that I support, as well as for people who kind of don't have the background and knowledge that I have from working in care. And so I was Catz Disabilities Officer. I recently got elected as the Disabled Students Organisation.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, I love being disabled. And then I recently got invited to be the Disabilities Officer on the Equalities Committee at the Union too. I have knowledge and lived experience, and I feel like I can utilise it. I'm doing my dissertation on the kind of on how people in care are supported, and how support workers create relationships with the people they care for, just because I know about care, so I feel like I can talk about it.
What misconceptions, maybe one or two, that lots of people have about disabilities? Very broad question, very broad category.
So my speciality is neurodiversity from lived experience and supporting the people in the care home. So I'll mostly talk about that. But a lot of people really not assume the worst, but they assume that people have the worst aspects of being neurodiverse, or they're perhaps less able to function in social situations, and they kind of assume that you're on a much lower functioning wavelength, when actually people with neurodiverse conditions are very cool and have lots of specialities that other people don't have. And for me, one of the biggest things is all the lads I work with are autistic, and there's this kind of assumption that autistic people have no empathy. This is talked about a lot in pop culture and stuff like that. If you see versions of autistic people on the TV, they are very stone cold, no empathy, etc. But actually the lads I work with are some of the most empathetic, sympathetic, broad thinking people I know, and they're so open to learning about new experiences, and so open to listening about you and your experiences and how you're feeling. And so for me, that's the biggest assumption that I have found to be challenged from working with people with neurodiverse conditions.
So one of the core I think back to my character growth and how I have matured, and I obviously got a long way to go still.
Don't roll.
I remember in school us talking about the social model of disability, which talks about how people are not themselves disabled, but they are actually disabled by societies and the systemic barriers.
Yes.
So I was wondering, have you looked into that, and what does that mean?
So I am, not to say obsessed, but I am really interested in the idea of the underdevelopment of people with kind of neurodiverse conditions and other disabilities. They are barricaded by society. I really feel with many disabilities, society limits them. They'll either kind of, for people with physical access issues, they might be blocked by the way that certain buildings are created, the way that roads and paths are created. By people with neurodiverse conditions, they're blocked by people's assumptions of them. They're blocked by people aren't willing to work around them, and certain what's that thing, I'm trying to think of a word but I can't remember it, certain they neglect the fact that people have certain specialities and certain ways that they can function, and instead try and fit people all into this one model, whether it's a physical or a neurodivergent disability. And yeah, that really angers me. It's like, so working in the care home, I always get really annoyed because the staff often assume, none of them will hear this, so it's okay. The staff often assume that, like, because these lads are living in a care home, they don't need to, like, pursue education or anything like that. When actually, like, one of them is my age, he's 21, he has full capacity, he's allowed to go into the community by himself, but they don't encourage him to get a job or to go on an education course because they think that because he's in the care home, he doesn't need to. He's like, he doesn't need to live that life. He'll never want to live that life. And the same is like with other service users who perhaps have a little less capacity but are still very capable of doing art courses and doing like computing courses. They just assume that because they have a disability, they don't need to do that or don't want to do that. Yeah, that's my take.
Wow, that's...
Sorry, I talked a lot there.
No, I loved it. I again, really appreciate your honesty, openness, and just passion for a very important course.
It's good vibes.
I think very much the social model of disability, where you talk about like the different components that actually block people from living a full flourishing life. You know, badly designed buildings, stairs, not ramps, not having lifts, few language signs, isolated family, job prospect discrimination, biases. Like it's pop
off, yes.
So I guess like if I use biblical language, you know, like ideally we want everyone to love our neighbours as ourselves, to be our brothers and sisters, keepers. Those factors or barriers or blockages are clearly opposite to that. So do you think, we know what the ideal is, which is that the society is perfect, things are all solved, and everyone will be empathetic and understanding.
Yeah, that's the dream.
That is the dream. How can we how can we progress towards that direction then? And are we making good progress?
Are we making good progress? It depends on what level you're talking. So I can't really comment on that. A really good model I have been looking at is L'Arche. Have you ever heard of L'Arche?
I haven't.
So they're a Christian organisation. Well, they're based in Christianity, Christian founder. But they are an organisation that provides support with people with disability. And so they kind of live in communal situations like a care home. But the whole idea is that the support staff, which they call assistants, gain as much from the core members, the people with lived experience of disability, as the core members can gain from them. So, like, they may provide physical support to those living with disability, but those living with disability can, like, give them lots of other kind of insights into life. Yeah. Which I think is a good idea. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's vibes.
So is social anthropology what you're focusing on now very much giving you the tools to understand this issue?
Yeah, it is. A lot of the stuff that I look at is that I'm interested in is kind of kinship and how we learn to relate to other people, how we learn to value other people, as well as like politics, how we kind of put people in hierarchies and stuff like that. Anthropology is very cool and gives you lots of tools to understand the world. Yeah.
And where do you see your future going after uni, after a 3-year degree?
That's such a good question, David. I love saying that. It's very fun to say.
Makes me feel liked.
Nice. So my dream is to go into kind of social care policy, to kind of like help create systems which people can gain from if they have kind of lived experience of disability, that don't underdevelop them, that don't undervalue them, and that make the world a bit more equal, if that is possible. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned on your form how, obviously in the context of giving you a legacy-worthy interview of what's important for you, I feel obligated to touch on even difficult topics, but I need your help to to guide me on how
Yes.
deep, how wide we can go.
Oh.
You mentioned how on your form about your own experiences with ADHD.
So it's true. Yeah.
The floor is yours.
The floor is mine. What to say? It's been really fun. It was really fun, actually. So, I mean, the first time we thought I might have ADHD was when we used to have this service user, and I was basically the only person that supported him, and he had ADHD and autism, and we would like have this, I would go through his entire routine in the day with him. I'd maintain their energy levels all day, and like I would always be coming up with new things and all of that. And his mum was like, I was quite good friends with his mum, and she was like, "You guys are basically twins. You're so alike. You're so similar in everything you do." And I was like, "Haha, that's so funny." And then I was kind of like, obviously within the context of work, researching ADHD, and within like. When I came to Cambridge and I met people with ADHD, I was like, haha, we're so alike, that's so funny. And then like I started doing work, and all of the things that I learned about ADHD kind of suddenly came to like, oh, I'm experiencing this. And then, you know, like the inattentivity, the inability to stick to deadlines, the hyperactivity, the kind of constant need for novelty, the impulsive behaviour, all of that kind of stuff, which has been a blessing and a curse, good vibes all round. And then I had my educational and like my ADHD diagnosis, and they were like, yeah, bro. Yeah.
So ADHD is often just chucked around the schoolyard. And
so true. They're like, oh my gosh, you're so ADHD if you're hyperactive.
So for those who always hear ADHD but clearly don't know much about it, what would you wish more people would know about ADHD?
Oh, this is so Camfess discoursey. I love it. I wish people. Well, not wish. Like, I think it's really important that people understand that ADHD isn't just hyperactivity. It's a lot of like not being able to organize yourself, not being able to like. You have like this like jumble of you. It's like a ball of string, but you throw it around the room until it's all knotted and tangled up, and then that's in your head, and you have to slowly untangle that to find all the important things to do in your day or to like know about and all that kind of stuff. And it's not just like, oh, I'm so hyperactive. It's like I feel like a mess because I can't organize my day and because I can't remember important things, and I can't concentrate in lectures when other people can, and that really frustrates me. And I can't concentrate in supervisions, and then they ask me questions and I have no idea what's going on, whereas the person sat next to me can, you know, tell them everything about what they've just asked and all of that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like I miss out on a lot of things as much as I try and join in lots of things because I'm so hyperactive. But I'm not even that hyperactive, just talk a lot.
I am impressed by that analogy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The people can't see it, but I'm squishing my hands together like a ball of string. Yeah.
Where did you get that analogy? Did you come up with it yourself?
Oh, that's just what it feels like in my head. Yeah, I don't know.
Is this the first time you used that analogy?
Sure. I've used it before when I was discussing with like the well-being person.
But like you came up with the analogy.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what it is. It's just like a little. It might. That's the noise it makes. Yeah.
I guess we can't take that literally.
No, we can't. I don't know, unless we could put like a microphone inside my head and see what noise it makes. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good pipes, isn't it?
You should publish a paper on this analogy. And...
Whoa, I could. My other favourite analogy is that, like, when I tried to go to bed, I was telling this to my friend last night, he was like, why don't you just wear yourself out? And I'm like, I can wear my body out, but my brain there's still a ping pong match in my brain. Go boom, 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 boom. And I can't go to sleep. So yeah, that's another analogy.
There's another sport that you're good at.
In my brain, I am very good at ping pong. In practice, I'm not, because I always hit it too hard. Yeah.
So I guess, like, would it be better to have a ping pong match in your brain or a rugby match in your brain?
Oh, that's such good. A rugby match in my brain.
Yeah.
That's
like
such a question.
tackling in your brain.
Do you think that would hurt? That's a really good question. I think a ping pong match would be better. Because theoretically, at some point, I can grab the ping pong ball. But a rugby match, there's so many people and there's a lot going on and the ball is flying everywhere. It's not just a linear line, it's everywhere. And that would hurt my brain. You know. Yeah.
Have you found Cambridge overall to be quite an inclusive environment, and have you felt loved and supported? And...
Oh my gosh, yes, I felt so loved and supported. No, it's really funny because I've met so many people who are neurodiverse, which is really weird because coming from home, I mean now we're finding out that most of my family is neurodiverse, which is so iconic. But all my childhood friends were very neurotypical, and then I always wondered why I was so different and why it's not I'm so quirky and unique, but I always felt like I didn't quite fit, and I felt very outlier, and I felt like I had to squish myself in to conform to how these guys were behaving, whereas I can come to Cambridge and people kind of understand what's going on in my brain, and I don't have to contain myself so much, which for my friends is really annoying because I'll be jumping around or chatting shit at 1 a.m. So sorry. But yeah, it's a much more inclusive environment. Yeah, good vibes.
In the context again of giving you a legacy-worthy interview, a meaningful piece of recording that captures a snapshot of who you are now and that you can look back in 10, 20, 30 years' time with great meaning and share with other people. Is there anything else that you want to be featured in this recording, or else I've got a few final ones to wrap up?
No, but thank you for asking. I could share my favourite word now, so that me in 10, 20, 30 years will be that's so dumb. My favourite word now is,
Damn it.
It's not damn it. I had one and, no, okay, I'll come back to that. Sorry about that, David.
I guess second to final, though, I reserve the right to add more questions.
Obsessed, love, yes. No, my favourite word is obsessed, but obsessed. You say with with pizzazz. No, sorry, my favourite word, ignore all that, cut all that out. My favourite word is pizzazz. Pizzazz.
What does that mean?
Pizzazz, if somebody has pizzazz.
Is that an actual word?
That's an actual word.
How do I spell that?
P-I-Z-Z-A-Z-Z.
P-I, P-I, sorry.
Double Z.
Double Z.
A. Double Z.
Double Z.
Pizzazz.
Pizzazz. Like an actual dictionary word.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm putting it in and the first thing that comes up is pizzazz pizza.
Oh, it's not real. I've been using this word.
No, it actually is a word. It's called an attractive combination of vitality and glamour.
Pizzazz.
Interesting, I've got a new word.
Yeah, see?
It's a very cool word.
It is a really cool word.
But if you put it in Google and the images, it comes out to be pizza.
I also rate that, to be fair.
Okay. So this word was invented by Diana Vreeland, who is a fashion editor of Harper's Bazaar. Yeah, in the 1930s.
That's very cool.
So my second to last question would be, if you could have a 1 hour conversation with anybody, even those who are as cool as the word pizzazz. Who would you want to be chatting with, and they could be alive or dead?
That's such I hate questions like that because there's so many choices.
You can pick 7 because I know you love your group of 7.
Yes, 7 for each day of the week.
But the 7th day is rest, so 6 maybe.
Okay, 6, and then I have a little nap afterwards. Number 1. Oh, I hate this question. just so you know. I would really like to have a conversation with... do you know what? I would really like to talk to somebody who has, like, encountered me and observed me. I can't put a specific name on it. Like, somebody who, like, has observed me and encountered me, but, like, we've never chatted before. I think that'd be such good vibes.
That's creepy.
No, not, like, in a creepy way, but, like, you know, like, if I've gone to, like, in school, like, if I've been in a class with somebody, but, like, we haven't chatted, like, I want to chat with them.
Just to hear their perception.
Of life.
Of life.
Yeah.
Of you or of life?
Both.
Okay.
I'm very self-obsessed, so it would have to be both, but yeah. Not in a creepy way. In a nice way. Yeah.
So that's who.
That's it. I'm not coming up with 6 more people. That'll take about 2 hours.
Alright, final one, typical last one. What's
Nice.
given, you know, all the things that you have been through in Wales, you know, hanging out with all the sheep,
Yeah.
you know, growing up in a missionary family, exploring your faith, taking the process to explore
So
your
true.
faith.
So true.
You know, moving to Grimsby and enjoying
Yep.
the grim weather.
Also true.
Picking up rugby, doing the mental health support work, finding a passion with disabilities and advocating for other people, taking on these voluntary roles at, you know, various societies and committees at university and discovering kind of your niche in social anthropology. So when you factor in all of those different things,
All of the things.
and including the radical love that you continue to possess and advocate for, what's one message, quote, or saying that you wish every educator, teacher, community leader, pastor would promote and every child would internalize?
Can I use the quote from the Muppets? Is that allowed?
Of course.
In the Muppets Christmas Carol, you know where the ghost of Christmas present, and he sings a song, and he says, I love this. He goes, like, wherever you find love, it feels like Christmas. And I like that. That's quite nice. It's like Christmas is everywhere and love is everywhere. And, like, all this joy that you find, it's so accessible and it's so open to you if you just, like, look for it and open your eyes.
That's a lovely message.
I
and
proper
sentiment.
cringe, though, innit? Yeah.
No, I loved it, and I...
Wish he'd said yes.
Yeah, I think, I guess I just want to say how much I have enjoyed this conversation and meeting you properly. I don't think we've met properly before.
No, we haven't.
Although I have read a lot of your Camfess
Haven't we
comments.
all? Also, yeah, no. I was going to say, one time I shouted at you, David, Quan is a coffee on you, and I feel, to this day, I still feel really bad about that. I was very drunk.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I feel very
It was in
bad
the
about
evening.
that. Yes, I came back, it was post Jags varsity, and I was very drunk. And I'm very sorry about that, David. And so we met that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Made me feel very liked.
That's the dream, baby.
But I think, jokes aside, I think the world needs people like you who go out of your way to help other people, to understand other people, and to empathise with other people. And I think, indeed, that radical love is something that all of us, no matter our race, our religion, our gender, our sexuality, whatever difference in diversity that seems to divide us, that radical love, I think, is the one uniting factor that we all need and should give out to the world. And I want to thank you for modelling that, and I hope that you're proud of the positive influence that you've had on other people, and that you can continue that spirit of service in whatever you do.
You do bits for my ego, thank you.
Good luck for exams.
Thank you, bye!